action-packed chapter of One Piece, Luffy throws down with the blind badass swordsman, Admiral Fujitora. Not only that, but it looks like the Straw Hat crew is going to get a few new members. I do apologize, Christian could not be here for this review. He's very busy, so I am going to be going solo this week, but he should be returning for the next chapter review. It's also worth noting that the next chapter of One Piece is going to be on break. But let's get relevant. Let's talk about this week's chapter, which was pretty freaking exciting. So, Luffy versus Fujitora. It's cool. It's basically the side attraction of this week's manga chapter. It was something that I was really looking forward to, but honestly, what happened at the very end of this week's chapter got me even more excited. But before we get to that, let's just talk about the battle between Luffy and Fujitora, which is not exactly what I was hoping for, but it was still pretty exciting. I especially love the fact that Luffy is just announcing all of his attacks. It's almost as if he's looking down on Admiral Fujitora because he is blind, but Fujitora does not want to be patronized by Luffy whatsoever. And while their battle is going on, while they're constantly destroying the landscape with big attacks, gravity, and freaking Gumu Gumu powers, all of the citizens of Dressrosa are trying to help out the Straw Hat Pirates and all the Kurita Coliseum Pirates and all the fighters so that they can all escape from the kingdom. And what they do is they actually run out into the battlefield. This way Fujitora can't drop all of this rubble down on the entire kingdom, because frankly that would be just messed up, and Fujitora actually has a code of honor, of ethics if you will. So he's not actually going to allow this to go down. And it's really funny as the citizens are running out, because they're saying a lot of menacing and messed up things, but they got big smiles on their faces. They're not angry at all. They're just trying to cause a little bit of a distraction so that all of these guys can actually escape. And before Luffy and Fujitora can even finish their battle, the big giant Harudin actually ends up grabbing Luffy and bringing him to his massive warship, which looks so freaking awesome. This massive monstrosity of a ship is not the only one that's going to be helping out Luffy and his crew. There's also going to be this giant armada, which is made up of the various pirate groups and the fighters from Kurita Coliseum. And this is where I think the most exciting part of the chapter comes into play, because ever since the beginning of the Dressrosa arc, a lot of people have been speculating, including myself, who is going to be the next Straw Hat Pirate. And we might have our confirmation in this week's chapter. It's not going to be one person. It's not going to be two people. Hell, it's not going to be three. It's going to be over 5,600 people, which are now going to be the subordinate crews of the Straw Hat Pirates. That's right, my friends. Not only is Bartolomeo and his crew going to be joining, you're going to have Leo, you're going to have Ideo, you're going to have Orlumbus, you're going to have Cavendish, you're going to have the Grand Hoppo Navy, all 1,000 of them, and they're all going to be the subordinate crews of the Straw Hat Pirates. They decide they're all going to make this official over a cup of sake, ending this week's chapter of One Piece. So what's the rundown on this week's chapter of One Piece? A very dialogue-heavy chapter, but honestly it had some really big developments. The first half of the battle between Luffy and Fujitora, while short-lived, I think was still really exciting. Not to mention, we're definitely going to see this character again. We're going to have another confrontation with this guy, and he might even be something of an ally for the Straw Hat Pirates. That's what I really love about Fujitora. He's very different from some of the other admirals that we've seen from the series. I think the closest he reminds me of is maybe of Aokiji, and that's mostly because we haven't really seen him in a long time, and I'm sure he has his own little thing going on, but he sort of reminds me of that. He seems to have a little more honor than the typical, like, higher-ranked Marine. But really, the biggest development this week is that the Straw Hat crew is going to get a lot of subordinates. Remember all those stories that Usopp used to tell about having, like, a giant army of thousands of pirates? Well, that's completely true at this point. It was already pretty evident midway through the Dressrosa arc that a lot of these guys were going to end up being the allies of Luffy. I just never expected that by the end of it, they were basically going to swear loyalty to him in this sort of parent-child relationship, with Luffy and the Straw Hat crew actually being the parents, and all of these other groups being the children. The children of the Straw Hat crew. And there are so many amazing characters, and what I really love about this is that it also guarantees that we're going to see all of these characters again. In particular, I'm just thrilled that we are going to see some more of Bartolomeo. I imagine these are the type of characters that are going to show up sporadically, or more towards the end of the series, when there's probably going to be some sort of big, massive conflict. I have imagined we're probably also going to see some of the other characters that Luffy has ran into in the past, and they're all going to team up. And basically, if you guys remember the battle at Marineford, it's basically going to be that, just times 10. It's just going to be insane. I really can't wait to see what they're going to do with that. But I really loved this chapter. I especially love that final bit where they had all of the ships which were lined up on the ocean, which were all going out really, really far so that they could escape. And then just seeing like that big, giant ship which had such an awesome design. This is some really amazing development for the series. And as par with the rest of the series, whenever something really cool happens or we're getting ready for like some sort of cliffhanger, the series decides to go on break for a week. That's just the way it is. I don't know if this is something that Oda had planned or if it's something that he just sort of came up with on the fly, but I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with the rest of this. Otherwise, this was just an exciting chapter, which was a little dialogue heavy, but it had some really great artwork moments. The battle with Luffy and Fujitora was exciting, but really it's all about that final moment for me. That got me really excited with them getting ready to share a cup of sake and just know that the Straw Hat Pirates really have a lot of support now that they're in the New World. They have over 5,000 freaking soldiers who are going to be joining them, and a lot of them are really freaking powerful and very useful, especially with their abilities. And, you know, I wanted one of the individual members to be like a brand new crew member. I understand why Bartolomeo is not going to be like an official real member of the Straw Hat crew, and that's because he has his own pirate crew, and he definitely doesn't want to abandon them. And maybe after hanging out with Luffy and all of them, he's sort of like seen the relationship that they had, and he's going to try and emulate that with his crew so that he can make them even more stronger and maybe even have a better connection with them. And that might actually be the story for a lot of these guys who are actually joining the Straw Hat Pirates. They've been fully influenced by Luffy. And this is not the first time that this has happened. If there's one thing that Luffy is really good at, aside from beating up the main villain of every single arc, it's that he has the ability to influence people, to give them hope, and to have them join his crew, so to speak, which is not so much just a job or work for them, but it's the ultimate friendship for life. It's a little cheesy, but still, I really loved it. This week's chapter was fantastic, good artwork, some pretty cool action, lots of brand new members of the Straw Hat crew. This was definitely an exciting chapter of One Piece that any One Piece fan should definitely check out. If you're reading the manga, if you're watching the anime version and you decide you want to read the manga, this would be a really great jumping on point because a new arc is getting ready to begin and there's going to be some big, exciting developments. All I know is I'm really excited for all the brand new members of the Straw Hat crew. It's also worth noting that there are some alliances which are formed in this week's chapter, especially amongst the fighters of Kurita Coliseum, like Ideo and Blue Gilly, and then you have Cavendish who's teaming up with that one freaky killer guy. Like, there's just so many cool little alliances which are started in this week's chapter, but I really can't wait to see what Luffy's answer is going to be at the beginning of the next chapter, because, you know, this is not officially set in stone quite yet. There is the chance that Luffy will say no, and he could be possibly making a lot of enemies at the same time, but I really don't see it going that way. I really think he's about to start, like, this big Armada alliance with all of these really awesome and cool pirates. Otherwise, why else would we have spent so much time with these cool characters in the Dressrosa arc and had so much built upon them? What I will say is this week's chapter was really exciting. One Piece fans, definitely check it out. It was a little long-winded in parts, and the battle between Luffy and Fujitora was not exactly what I wanted, but all the developments and that big surprise at the end was something that I really enjoyed. So I'm going to give this week's chapter a 4 out of 5. Check it out, One Piece fans. It was pretty awesome. But before you guys leave today, I want to hear your thoughts about this week's chapter of One Piece. What did you think about the battle between Luffy and Fujitora? And what did you think about this big alliance that's getting ready to go down with the Straw Hat crew? Do you have a favorite member who looks like they're getting ready to join? Did you have a member that you wish would be an official member of the Straw Hat crew? And what do you want to see from the rest of the One Piece series? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. You guys should also check out our weekly podcast show, which unfortunately was on break this week, and that is because we are really freaking busy. We have so many crazy things going on, so everything should be back on schedule next week with the podcast, gangster reviews. I even have a big review that I'm doing for God Eater. I'm actually 6 episodes in, I'm completely caught up, and I want to do kind of like a big batch review of all of those episodes because it's a pretty fun series. Not to mention, we have Pokemon Month, which is coming up next week. We have a Star Wars video series, which is coming up, a Naruto movie review. Fall anime season is coming up, and this weekend we are going to Dragon Con 2015, which is an amazing convention which is going down in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you are in the area, please come this weekend. You might be able to see us. We can hang out, have a beer, and have a great time at one of the biggest sci-fi, comic, anime, and pop culture conventions in the Southeast. But thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.